Next, Mr. Senera. We know that Cambodia has introduced import duties on EVs in 2021 that is about 50% lower than taxes on traditional internal combustion engine. What are you going to do to attract investment in EV to Cambodia?
Thank you, moderator. First and foremost, appreciate the organizing committee to have me here representing Cambodia to talk about the EV investment opportunity in Cambodia. It's pretty challenging to inform our government policy regarding the attractions, how the government policy is designed to attract the EV investment in Cambodia. Meanwhile, sitting next to the Indonesian delegate, who is the country, enriched of nickel for production of the battery for the electric vehicle. And Thailand has mentioned earlier this morning as well how strong the ecosystem of the industry in automotive industry in Thailand. However, there are still opportunities. I'm happy that I'm sitting just right in front of the investor who are really interested in the EV. I'm not the EV expert. I own the electric vehicle or car before I come here. But actually, there are still the opportunity to invest in Cambodia, regardless of the size of our population or the potential of our domestic market. Why? I think I have to echo what the Minister of BKP mentioned earlier this morning about the complementary economy, not the competitive economy. Competition is good, but complementarity would make ASEAN sustainable and realize our endeavor to be stable global supplier, and also to strengthen our global, our regional supply chains, especially in the field of the electric vehicle. So we have mentioned about, we talk a lot about the electric vehicles, but then I have to break down into questioning what kinds of vehicle we are trying to invest in. Because, for example, if you go to a particular country, our neighbor country, Thailand or maybe Malaysia, Indonesia, I think they aim for the high-end, high value-add industry already, just to produce an EV. But then I have to inform you first, before I go into detail, I don't know, with the time constraint in mind, that recently our government has adopted a roadmap called Automotive and Electronics Sectors Development Roadmap for Cambodia to move up to a certain level of exporting and being a supply chain of the part and component of the automotive and electronic. Because for the past few years, we see amid the pandemic crisis and economic slowdown, we see that the export of the simple components of the automotive and electronics to the global market kept rising unbelievably. And then we understand that to diversify our economy, so the automotive part and component with the simple part and component production and supply to the global market, especially to ASEAN, and electronic would make it Cambodia provide comparative advantages. And we are not trying to compete, but and with that in mind, so the government has provided a roadmap that aim on five particular sectors to realize our endeavor to be part of the supplier to the region, to the global. One of which is a cross-ministerial strategy and coordination, which is a soft infrastructure that we have to handle. The key initiative is to include the indication of the location for the automotive and electronics and sector cluster, and the strengthening of a cooperation with a neighboring country like Thailand and of course Vietnam and Indonesia, and also human capital and innovations. Of course, when we talk about EV, and it's the right timing to talk about the EV due to the commitment of each and every government toward the commitment of the zero carbon emission. But on top of that, I believe that that's part of it's part of the skyrocketing price of the gasoline, right? So that makes it, EV becomes popular. And also the mentality of the new generation toward the the high-tech phase means of transportation, and EV is part of one of the high-tech to them. But on top of that, infrastructure. So our government plans to improve the infrastructure, and the key initiative for that include the reviewing the electricity tariff. And earlier we mentioned about the high price of the fuel, but at the same time, once you convert into the EV, still you need to consume electricity. And the electricity in Cambodia is still high as compared to the neighboring country and to the Laos PDR. Therefore, it is important that before the EVs manufacturer or the assembly plant could come into Cambodia to install, assemble, and supply to the local market with the increasing demand of the new automotive and to export as well. So the electricity cost would be the priority for the consideration. So the managing the price of electricity is very important. And also when I mentioned about the infrastructure, so the harmonizing cross-borders transport and regulations is one of the top priority for the government, because we talk a lot about the supply chains and about the complementarity. So that means that the nickels imported from Indonesia, you don't really want to process it here. Of course, you have to clear certain regulation before you can export the semi-processed nickel to the neighboring country for making the battery. And then you can go to do it in Cambodia if the Thailand doesn't want to do it, right? And then it's very necessary to streamlining the cross-borders shipping, transporting regulation. So this one of the top priority of the government, and also to reduce costs, because these days you see that pandemics, during the pandemic, you see the price of the logistics soar, which hurt most trader. And last but not least, we are not, I have to admit that we Cambodia, with a small size of the market, and we are not the country, natural, let's say, mineral deposit rich country like Indonesia or other country. Therefore, we expect to actually to incentivize those investment activity in our country, rather than trying to, sell to them the resources that we have. Therefore, to accommodate this policy, the government has adopted a new law and regulation which provide the lucrative incentive to such kind of investment activity. And starting ranging from the import duty free of these material production and equipment, and export duty free, and the long-term corporate income tax exemption with the additional tax exemption and other special tax exemption. The detail of which can be informed you later. Would you like to approach me or in other opportunity? And our endeavor by providing this incentive and this fiscal incentive and the non-fiscal incentive that I just mentioned, because we aim also for the labor intensive. Unless your industry demands only the robots, okay? So we aim only for the low or medium technology, which also still needs require the labor intensive, such as seats or wiring harness and other components that some other countries in Asia, in ASEAN, are not of interest anymore. So this is how we try to create, to be part of the ecosystem that you just mentioned earlier.